Look how cool this thing is. Really like it, especially with that pop-up on the top. It is actually incredible how much space you have from such a small van, because obviously there are no health and safety rules when they used to do it, because literally they used all the space available. I mean, you sit in there, your knees actually are part of the bumper or crash bars, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, yeah, this thing was built before all the stupid safe and health and safety regulations came in, and we survived it with a great years, you know, camping and all the stuff. It was all much more freedom. I mean, you didn't have to tell the kids not to jump in a fucking open hole or pothole or whatever, you know, not to jump out the building because you're gonna kill yourself. We knew this shit, you know. Used to pick up fruit from the ground and eat them. Now everyone will go crazy. Yeah, but that's a different matter. Before all the snowflakes go on me, you know, I think it used to be much better than now. You know, you have to explain the kids that, you know, it's whatever. Fuck it, just not go into that debate because I'll be here for hours. However, like I said, this is the thing we have to work on it now. I need to get it done as soon as possible. This was already 1.9 TDI converted. We've done it last year, and my customer, which is also a friend of mine, he did 7,000 miles on it. So we actually tested the way we've done the engine and the setup. It worked, but also had some issues, and I'm gonna go through them now. So the way we went, it wasn't really correct way to do it for just one small thing, which is quite big, to be honest. Impressions, he was extremely happy with. This thing was quick, honestly. I'm not kidding you. I had the video somewhere if I can find it. But it was really, really quick. Third gear, out the roundabouts, you put your foot down and you go sideways. Not because of shitty tires, because of the torque. The 1.9 PD engine we used, it was from the Passat 130 brakes, remapped. I don't know what they make, 160, 180 brakes, whatever. Really torquey. And so obviously, in something like this, which is very, very light, it was going as fuck, like really good. And still delivering like really, really great MPG because, you know, and he sent me a screenshot in Italy, in the Alps on the motorway. I think he was doing 80 or 90 miles per hour, something crazy. It was like people look at you strange because obviously everyone who looks at them on the motorway up the hills, you know, first or second gear because, you know, you don't really know how long it's going to take you to make that hill, or if you're even going to make it, because, you know, who knows these cars? You know, they're not really reliable. They're cool, they're very cool, but reliability is not their strength. Fuel consumption is not their strength, and the power definitely is something they lack of. So 1.9 PD engine, I think, is one of the best solutions because it's small, it fits in the engine bay, nearly, and you got a good strong gearbox, good power, MPG is absolutely awesome. So I think it's definitely a good option, good engine swap to get in with them because you got a very cool van, very good transmission, very cool engine, mega reliable. What else do you want? You know, that's perfect. But I go through all the stuff the way I built this van. Well, not the van completely because Nick done it, a friend of mine, customer, the owner. I've done the 1.9 PD conversion with him, so I'll show you the way I've done it and what was wrong with which was we supposed to do better. So yeah, let me show you. So this is the setup, roughly. I just put the exhaust back together so you can see roughly what that means. Obviously, this was exactly here underneath of the bumper, so you can just barely see it from behind the car. There was that exhaust along, just underneath of the bumper. Now one there. It's all 3-inch, sounded fairly good. We have the intercooler here, which was not this way, it's just slightly higher, just to give you a perspective what it was. And I have to admit it's not a great position for it because it is very close to the turbo, and obviously all that heat transmits to the intercooler. That needs to be rubbed, heat jacket on the turbo, and all exhaust rubbed to obviously not eliminate, but limit the heat goes to the intercooler, because obviously the intercooler needs to cool the air inside, and if it's too hot outside, it doesn't really do the job as it's supposed to. It was a small pipe from here to there, then a pipe from here to obviously a turbo outlet with a new bigger map sensor, etc., etc. So let's just remove this for the sake to show you what we've done. And the beauty is, this is the cross member I've done. These plates, they bolt on the standard chassis mounts, which they are here. And if you can see it, there you go, one here and one there. So you basically remove the old engine and subframe, and you just bolt that stuff on, which holds from this mount the intercooler, it holds the exhaust, obviously the engine itself, and these mounts here, they were for the radiator, which is this one here, and the radiator was on the back there. Yes, it is not on the front. Now, whoever done the engine conversion on these cars, vans, camper vans, they know one of the biggest problems they have to sort out is actually not the gearbox adapter, not the gearbox setup, but the cooling system if you run a water-cooled engine, because there's nothing on the front. Some people modify the front. I think it kills the whole beauty of them because there's nothing up there. Some people put the radiators in the floor, which it could work, no problems. But Nick was concerned about this because he wants to go, I'm not saying off-roading, but on the roads that are not really nice and smooth. So there was a high risk of some rocks or dirt or whatever hitting and damaging the radiator. You can do some protection and all the stuff, but he was like, it's going to be complicated. You have to fix something. Maybe it's just not a great idea. So I came up with the radiator, put it on the back. Now, from building race cars, we already have the experience, which shows us that the radiator model on the back works perfectly fine, because you don't really have to be worried about getting the air into the radiator, but getting the hot air outside the radiator, which once you move in, you're creating enough drag force to extract the air from the back of the car. And because they're square on the back, they do generate quite a lot of drag force, especially now because this thing actually moves. So it worked all right. Did it work perfectly? Not quite. He said that in the Alps, in Italy, long hill, so put your foot down, maximum torque, maximum boost. After a while, the tempo was going up. Not dangerously up, never went on a red, so it was still good. But then obviously you had to kind of slow down a little to make it cool it down. You don't have to stop anything, it will cool down on its own. Which kind of like, go up the hill and then straight. So it wasn't really never an issue. He never had a situation where he had to stop up the hill and just really slow down to cool it down. He was able to actually finish to go up the hill and then he could down his own. He never encountered a big hill that would have you actually be a trouble. But, it could be slightly better. Maybe slightly bigger capacity radiator, we'll sort it out. Maybe a couple of liters more and it will be fine. So, but I'm going to look into this. Maybe I can try to improve it. What else? Oh, yes. So, next is the gearbox. Now, the engine, as is now, it sits with a new gearbox we have on. The first gearbox we had, I actually used the standard Passat gearbox, which is down on the floor here. And obviously, if you just put it on, you put the first gear, and the car will go backwards, because that's how it works. So, to flip the motion from the backwards to forward, we had to flip the differential. And in this case, you have to flip the whole gearbox. I'll show you now. So this is exactly how it sits. What I did, I chopped, you can see here, you see, this is all welding. I chopped this section of the bell housing here, flipped the gearbox, put everything in the center, and weld the bell housing to the gearbox back on. Obviously, I had to strip the entire gearbox, the diff and everything extracted. Then, however, there was a big concern because you can see from here where the CV joint sits. Usually, they're supposed to be here, and these are here. You can see on this new gearbox here. You see? The whole diff section is much lower, as it should be. So the CV joint is on the lowest point. On this gearbox, it's completely opposite. It's up. And so when we choose to go that direction, my concern was, because this van is actually not slammed, because usually this van, people usually they have them really slammed on the floor, there wouldn't be a problem. Nick didn't want that solution. He wanted the car on the standard height, obviously, to have enough ground clearance for where he's going to go. So I was concerned about this. But then we found a company who builds high-angle CV joints. And from my measurements, when I've done it, the angle we will have to run wasn't exceeding the angle they recommended. So, all good, right? So we done a couple of experiments, a couple of different CV joints, including those ones, custom-made stuff, etc., etc. Then eventually Nick, he was playing with it on his own. He made these adapter plates from the standard CV joints, you know, bigger ones, I reckon, the smaller ones, etc., etc. And it worked kind of all right-ish for 7,000 miles, which, fair enough. But what happened, it was keep destroying the CV boots, as you can see, both sides. This one is not because it's fresh, but they just exploded. That's why you see all the grease. And this is the reason why everything is so dirty. See, you got grease everywhere on the engine. Look at that. Well, you can tell on the gearbox, it's all black. That's not paint, that's grease. Look at that. Everywhere, which is the subframe. Look at this side. Everything is absolutely covered because obviously these spin, they were here, they spin and they span all the grease all over the place, which, thank you very much, Nick. Would be nice if you kind of cleaned it before bringing it in a workshop. Now I have to steam clean it, which is a bit of pain, but no big deal, to be honest. I can manage. Before fitting the engine completely in the car, we're going to steam clean it and everything. I'm going to paint some of the stuff and make it look fresh again. So the CV joint was the only problem that we had to sort out. Now this gearbox was a 6-speed, which is what was kind of difficult to me to select the gears from the standard shifter because I used the standard shifter and the solid linkage. But it wasn't too bad. Now we're using 5-speed, which he's completely fine about it because the car is so light, the engine is so torquey. It's a 6-speed, it's just shuffling through the gears, which is pointless. Sometimes he just jumps from 4th to 6th or some of the gears because there's just absolutely no need. You can just higher gear. The engine is so torquey, the car is so light, it just pushes it along anyway. So you say 5-speed will actually suit this car even better. So we found this 5-speed gearbox. This is a different gearbox. It's not actually a Volkswagen gearbox, but it fits the Volkswagen block with no adapter plates. Yep, we have a gearbox that fits 1.9. CV joints they down, so the diff is actually low, and you don't have to modify it, and it goes there. Now this can be shifted through the linkage, so you can put probably, you know, like a new Vans, they have the gear shifter close to the steering wheel, long lines for the shifter, or change it and make it mechanical from the standard shifter on the Volkswagen on T2. You can do it very easily. When I'm going to build it, I'm actually going to show you, because this shifter is just like a BMW, goes forth and back, left and right, so very simple to adapt. And these are actually very, very strong, so they can be used for different applications. If you want to build a trike, for example, you know, with the engine on the back, and let's not go into that. However, the one problem you have now is those CV joints, they were not only too high, but they were obviously... Sorry, that was a lady with a parcel. Those CV joints not only were too high, they were too much far back. And the reason for that, because obviously these PD engines, they have this vacuum and fuel pump on the back of the head. And this, let me just grab the light, and I'll show you the limitation when you put one of these engines in. Yeah, they will hit there. It was. You see that thing on the fuel tank? Knackered, bit of tapper. That was caused by this bolt here, if I'm not wrong, or something on the top here, because we had another mount on the gearbox from stopping the engine going forth and back, up and down, and that broke and caused a little bit of play and movement on the gearbox, and that's what caused that this hitting the fuel tank. But obviously you can't move the engine any further front, because obviously you already have this section here which I had to remove to fit the gearbox, and you just can't go forward because you have the fuel tank. So there is not really a practical solution, because now for these CV joints to actually go straight, this would have to be here. So this is another problem that we still have to sort out. There's not a practical solution. And the only solution is to actually make a space in the fuel tank. So the engine now, it will be the same position height-wise, but it will have to be moved to the front on the car. So I will have to get the fuel tank out, have to modify it. We're probably going to lose, I don't know, about a gallon of fuel probably, maybe even something more. I see if I can modify it to give it maybe some more, like on the side of the fuel tank. I don't know. I have to work on this one. But it's not really a big deal, because this engine is so good on MPG that you don't really lose any fuel range anyway from the standard, or still gain some. So not really a big deal. Something we can live with. It's definitely worth doing that, because then you have the CV joints where they work completely straight. There's no angle. So you can put your power down completely. And now we're actually debating on modifying this engine, because, again, it's already more powerful than it needs, but you know how it is with the power. Never enough. If you have a choice to have more, why not? So we're planning to probably to put the bigger injectors, hybrid turbo, and raise the power to, I don't know, 240, 260 maybe. I don't know. We have to speak with a few people, see what's available, and maybe go from there. I'm not going to go too crazy, no plenum, no exhaust system, just a little bit more, just to put a more smile on your face. And you say he loves the people's faces on the traffic lights when they just leave them behind, from the old T2, which they know for being very, very slow. What else? Well, now at this point, there's another thing. This is the angle of the engine. Let me put it on from the front. Maybe you can see it better from this perspective. You see, it was lying not as this now. Originally, it was slightly more upwards, but it's still on the quite an angle. And this is the way it fits everything. Unfortunately, with the new gearbox, because I didn't chop the bell housing, I'm not able to put the engine with the gearbox, with this incorporation of the gearbox, whatever I want. Now, the angle of the engine will be dictated by the gearbox. And obviously, I have to put the gearbox completely straight to have the CV joints, obviously, at the same position, left and right. As now you can see, it's very much on the angle. So this engine will have to be upright quite a lot. So it will change my position. And in this case, this mount will have to be higher, and this mount will have to be lower. Now, the only way to do it, obviously this way, not a problem, but this way, obviously, it will have to go down. Also, because like I said, we're going to move this engine further forward on the car, these mounts, they will have to be this side instead of there, will have to be roughly here, which is not a problem. But on this side, it will be a problem, because it will have to be like inside there. So instead of modifying this subframe, let's call it cross member or whatever, I just gonna make a new one. So I'm gonna actually remove this section from this section, because this it will stay, because this is new mounts. They match obviously the chassis and etc. etc. This probably stays here. I'm gonna keep this and remove all the bottom of the section. Then I'm gonna put the engine in position on this table, perfectly square, perfectly straight, and then lower the van onto the engine. I'm gonna put all of this underneath there and the lower on the top, and see how much I have to cut from the fuel tank. Mark everything up, take some measurements, remove those gearbox mounts because obviously they're gonna be there anymore. And we're gonna move the gearbox as far forward as possible, which is gonna be, this is gonna be our new limit. You can't remove this bin here because obviously it's a part of the suspension, the chassis. So this stays here. However, I've calculated that we can actually move the engine forward about 80 mil, which is by that much, which will be enough to get the CV joints nearly completely straight, which that's exactly what we want. So what else we have to do to it? Nothing more. I think that's it. Because all the rest obviously was working, so all the engine loom and everything was already sorted, the ECU, the dash and everything, the throttle pedal, the ignition, everything. Because like I say, it was already working, so I think that's good enough. Shouldn't take me too long. I think next step now is to not clean it because I don't really have much time for it. Fuck, I'm gonna get dirty anyway because there's no point to clean the engine itself when the engine bay is completely dirty and covered and everything. And as you know, this shit here, this is a grease from the CV joints and it's pretty fresh and it's thick, it's dark, and even a brake cleaner has the troubles to remove it. So it will take, I don't know, 10-15 liters of brake cleaner to clean engine and engine bay. So for now, I'm just gonna mock everything up. Next step probably is gonna be remove all this engine loom, all these wires, because they're not needed for now for the mock-up, and it's gonna make my job easier. And the whole fuel system. So this is the fuel filter I put here. I made this mount on actually this subframe, so it was easy to access from the top of there and easy to walk on if you had to. So yeah, I think that's it for now. We're gonna remove everything. Obviously the exhaust is just put on just to show you how it stays in the car. It was already removed, make completely, you know, from new, from 2-inch to 3-inch and 3-inch all the way down. Sounds pretty good. These engines, they sound really rattly. They sound like a truck, like an old broken tractor on idle. It's pretty shit. But as soon as you put your foot down, they actually sound very good. So 3-inch exhaust, it was quite pleasant to hear when it was flat out and passing through the workshop. Well, in the front of the workshop. So let's go on with it. So let's go through this belt situation here. Actually, let me start from this side. It'll be easy to explain. Now, obviously, we don't run any power steering on this car because obviously it is what it is. But we had to run the power steering pump in order to, at least the bearing for this pulley to be here, because we could go straight from here to there with the belt, with the alternator, because to be honest, just the alternator that we need. But then, if we keep this pulley or this tensioner, and you can see this belt will have to go from here at least to there, or ideally, straight to the alternator, you see? But obviously the tensioner was always on the way, so this belt had to go all around there, etc., etc. But this probably was a lazy thinking. All we had to do is just swap the setup. I have a 150 brake horsepower Bora engine, which is still 1.9, same block. And look at this stuff. It's completely different setup on the tensioner. Tension is on the top, not on the bottom. So if I remove this pulley here, which is the power steering, if I remove this pulley here, which is the aircon compressor, and we're not running aircon, and leave this, which is the alternator, so the belt will go from here tension on it, which is going to be slightly more towards this way, because now obviously there's no tension on it. Alternator, and straight back to the crank. Simple as that. You know, sometimes just bloody stupid, you know. I think we will have to run, because they have this sort of plate, like a template here that holds obviously the alternator and all the stuff, and you can change in between, you know. There's another one with a different setup, but the one from the bottom I think will suit us. So happy days. Nick doesn't know this yet. I'm pretty sure he's gonna watch the video and call me straight after, because yeah, this is just great, because we can remove this power steering pump, not needed anymore. Which I think he broke one because it was running with low oil, or I can't remember for some reason. However, just remove this, less thing to break, and it's gonna be much tighter. It's just gonna be, you see, crank, alternator, both up and down, and that's it. All of this is gonna be nice and clean, nothing there. Nice. No. Let's remove it from there. Some frame. So the engine is in position. It's completely flat, straight. I put some spaces on the ramp. See? And one here. I adjusted the van, which is completely straight, flat to the surface. So I can put this exactly straight. I want it in that position, and it is nearly true straight this way, because you can measure obviously the angle of this of the flange for the CV joints. It's actually not completely true, it's half degree off, but this doesn't really mean anything at this moment. It doesn't matter, because all we need now is just the position inside the engine bay, roughly. The minor thing is to see, let me just grab the light, you can actually see better, as the phone won't pick up anything if it's dark. There you go. I already signed over there, you see the mark, but it has to be moved. This is with the engine on the angle. Now it's going to be a bit more in the middle. This cross member will have to be removed. I'm going to remove it completely from the chassis. You see it's a bit rotten over there anyway, so it will be a good thing to remove it and build a new one. And I think I'm going to make a new one from roughly there where the engine mounts will have to be. So everything is going to be much simpler with the engine mount, with the gearbox mounts, and also we make the chassis stronger. Probably going to put it there just underneath of the fuel tank cover, and all of this will have to be moved, and obviously the fuel tank. I'm expecting to remove quite a bit of a fuel tank, because obviously you still need some space, because all of this will have to be enclosed in the fuel tank, probably that deep, about 60-70 mil roughly, but then obviously you need some movement. You need about 20 mil or about inch safe, obviously all around the bits, because obviously the engine, we have it on the standard engine mounts. We want it to be nice and comfortable, no vibrations transmitted to the chassis and all the stuff. So this thing actually moves, and when you accelerate, obviously because of the CV joints here, everything moves up and down a little, not much, but still you have to leave space for movement. So yeah, remove all the wiring, which is down there, close to my beamer engine, which is much cleaner now. To be honest, if it wasn't raining today, because it's pissing down today, I would probably prefer to get this engine outside and clean all this mess, because you know I don't really like to work with stuff like this. You get dirty and all that stuff, you know. But yet again, if I clean the engine, I still got all of this engine bay which is covered in this mess. It's absolutely everywhere. These gearbox mounts, luckily I can just remove them, you know, and fuck off with them, but all the rest is still filthy. Oh, if you wonder about this is not my job. This is Nick. He was experimenting with the different CV joints angles and all that stuff, so he just temporarily put this on to see if he can have it bit raised and etc, etc. Obviously it's just, you know, testings for him, and we're gonna do it proper later on once we got everything sorted. So yeah, fuel tank out soon, and we have to come off and empty it from diesel. Shame, because my car is petrol now. I would do with a bit of a diesel in mine, but I drive petrol now, so right, see you in a bit. Where's the engine? Oh yeah, sorry, he's in there. So let me just grab a light for you, you can see it better. So this is how it will sit inside the engine bay. So there's plenty of space on the left side, plenty of space on the right side, plenty of space up to here. Just bear in mind this is like all soft because you just drop down, so there's lots of space there. The oil filler cap, you can see is there on the top, so really easy to top up just from the top of the lid, because you know they have that opening there. And yeah, oil checking level, that will be an issue because it's, let me just flip the camera, because it's there. But this is not the end of the story, right? Because you see there's not much room here. Let me go from underneath to show you. There you go. Okay. However, as you can see there's a plenty of space there. Actually, let me just crawl just under that stuff to show you better. Bit of patience, please. You will see. There you go. So you see the gearbox, as I said, the limitation we have for how much we can go forward with the engine and the gearbox is the space between this and this beam, which is the section of the suspension and part of the chassis, obviously. So what we got here, there you go, 5.5 inches. You can see it there. Plenty of space there, lots of space. So we can go further forward quite a lot. Now let's check where this will bring us with this. Let me sort the light out. The CV joints. Okay, so it's pretty low. This used to be, instead of here, used to be there. So you see there's a massive difference, and the hub is slightly lower, but it's minimal. So when we're gonna have the van obviously on the floor and the hub is gonna be higher at the normal right height, it's gonna be, I'm not saying straight, but pretty much. Now I've done a few marks. This one here is where the hub is, this one. And this mark here is where, I can't do it with one hand, sorry. Let me try to do it this way. Oh, there you go. Now this mark is where that CV joint will be. And we have, there you go, 6 inches. All right, now 6 inches. Let me just show you on this one. I have to go under the ramp because obviously I put my Sylvia in the wrong place. There you go. I was pretty stupid. I can't fit in there. I'm pretty skinny now. I'm not going to the gym anymore, but not as skinny. So, however, just to show you a perception, this is the length of the. Let me just show. This is the length of the drive shaft from there to there. It's exactly 20 inches. Okay. If it will be straight, this is the line that we will be straight. And this is the line what we're going to have, which is literally fuck all. Only 5 degrees on the CV joints here and there, which is really, really nothing. You can pretty much say they work almost straight. Now, why I'm saying only this, because you say there was a 6 inch of difference between where the hub is and where the CV joint on the gearbox is. But we have 5 inches of space to go forward with the gearbox and engine before hitting anything. So I say let's go forward 4.5 inches. Let's leave that 0.5 inch of play, obviously movement, because again, soft bushes, engine mounts, you got some movement. So 0.5 inch, that's plenty. and that leaves us with 1.5 inch of difference, which is exactly this. That being said, I'm very happy with this because 5 degree on the CV joints is honestly fuck all. You can't even tell the difference between straight and 5 degrees. It's nothing. So extremely happy with that. At the right height of the car, if you look in the back, it's going to be nearly straight as well. So we can put some serious power from the CV joints. They're not going to suffer from the boots breaking anymore, etc., etc. So yeah, pretty good. But the problem that we have to sort out, obviously, if you want to go forward with the gearbox, there's plenty of space, as you can see. That's what I said before. Oh, this section, we have to go inside the fuel tank. So after we have to chop all of this from here to the other side, go up and remove quite a bit of a chunk of the fuel tank. It's not too much, to be honest. If I only could change that fitting there, which is for the heater, the matrix heater, maybe I can do something custom, because it's sticking out much more than the pump itself. There's not much there from here to there. Let me try if you can, let me see if I can measure it with one hand, which is not easy because I'm actually under the ramp. Let me try. Let's see. 70 mil roughly. We don't need accurate measurement. 70 mil, and 70 mil is almost 3 inches, and we're going forward 4 inches, 4.5, so about 110 mil. 70, so you leave 40 mil. So if I get this one sorted, put something different, I can only have to go inside the fuel tank 40 mil, which is not much, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna leave that part of the engine standard and just go deeper in the fuel tank, because I would prefer to use as less custom bits as this is possible. Because for the simple reason, like I said before, they're gonna go camping, remote places, out of the way, and I don't know, stupid example, an engine mount breaks, causes the engine to move excessively, and a custom housing maybe that was I could make may hit something, may break, and then in a deep shit. Simple as that, because you need another one to replace it. You can't just pop up in a shop, wait a couple of days, even if it's not there available, and get it delivered to you and change it. You can't do it. You can't just go to the mechanic and say, can you fix it? It will have to be rebuilt, or will have to be built custom again. So I always tend to use standard parts as much as possible. Less custom stuff means less troubles. If you do build something custom, you got to make sure it will not break, it will not give up, so make it twice as strong. In this case, I think a good compromise would be to leave that part completely standard. You have engine code, and you can get all the bits, all the parts very easily, so you can service it and fix it, whatever happens on the road, and modify a bit more the fuel tank. I mean, once you have to modify the fuel tank, I mean, you go inside 4 inches or 4.5 inches or 5 inches, doesn't make any difference. The only thing is going to be slightly less fuel. But again, this is such a good MPG. Honestly, it's going to be good anyway. And plus again, you bring a jerry can with you anyway, just in case. So yeah, I think it's good. Sits on pretty right. Oh, another thing, as I showed, there's not much space here, but obviously this is going to go nearly 5 inches forward, so we're going to have plenty of space here for probably bigger or maybe just thicker radiator, maybe double it. I don't know. I'm not really sure if I have to use it or not, but surely we have more space, which gives me more options. Happy days. I'm going home, and tomorrow we're gonna hang the engine somewhere, because I want to leave the engine in the engine bay as it is in this place, make it all nice and square, completely straight and true, and able to leave the whole car, the whole van up in the ramp, because we have to work from under the chassis because on this set here, when there are two holes over there, this is the normal standard mounts for the old subframe. I want to cut this section here, which we're gonna still use this section here, and start building the new subframe from there. No point to rebuild the whole thing. I mean, this is gonna be exactly the same. So, yeah. Happy days, quite productive day today. Haven't done much, but I'm really happy because I know there's plenty of space once I remove the fuel tank and the cross member, which, as I say, is rotten anyway, so it's good to remove it and rebuild one. So once we're gonna rebuild it with the obviously stronger one and with the purpose to fit the new gearbox. I know cutting and modify the fuel tank sounds scary, but to be honest, it isn't. You know, if you know what you're doing, just why? Just make it slightly smaller. It's not really a big compromise in my eyes. It makes everything much easier to fit. And the whole setup, the whole engine and gearbox as it is, all original, no custom bits, just slides in, plenty of space for everything around. I think this is gonna be good. And I'm gonna try to persuade Nick to fit the bigger injectors in a hybrid turbo, because this thing with about 240, maybe 260 brakes, this would be nice. I mean, you can get more if you build the exhaust manifold, which we kind of have a space for it, right? Where's the light? I lost my light. No, the light is here. Let's have a look. I'm getting excited here. That's not good, because when I'm getting excited, it's not good, because then I'm trying to persuade people to do crazy stuff. So, yeah, there's plenty of room here. Plenty of room. I mean, look at it. You can fit massive turbo here. We could build a really nice flowing exhaust manifold, even straight, and we can put one of these. Oh, Jesus Christ, my headset just fell off. Because I am what I am. One of these turbos here. There you go. Nice, got it. This is the one from M57N engine, 204 brake horsepower. Let me bring this headset back. Which is probably, I'm not saying twice the size of this, but 1.5 or nearly twice, whatever. One of them. And if you can fit that turbo in, I know because a lot of guys done it, that turbo on a nice exhaust manifold with still shitty crap inlet plenums, because you can tell they're really crap. I mean, there's no way that air goes into the first, where the fourth cylinder, the one behind. We have to turn nearly 180 degrees. This is like, yeah, you pressurize it, but flow is fucking shocking. I don't know why they've done it. However, standard plenum from this, from the Passat, good exhaust manifold, 330 diesel turbo, and I'm saying that turbo because they're fairly cheap, they're easy to fix because you can get the cartridges from inside, which is like available on eBay, you know, they make it all sort of them. And it makes, I think, with 25 or 30% injectors nozzles, if I remember wrong. I can't remember, to be honest. However, with the bigger injectors, it makes between 3 and 330 brakes. It would be nuts, to be honest, because this is probably 160, 180, I'm not really sure, and it flies. It really is quick, and so we can pretty much nearly double the power. And the beauty is they're still reliable at that sort of horsepower, and they still deliver great MPG. I mean, 55 easily, 60 if you cruise steady. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.